I got a win streak of over 100 wins in the Emerald Battle Tower using Tangela. In this video I will show you why and how. The Battle Tower is one of the biggest single player challenges you can find in the mainline Pokemon games. It has been in most of them in some form, and usually the aim is to get as many wins as possible without losing a single time. The Battle Tower is filled with trainers that have many dangerous Pokemon, from annoying double team spamming toxic stallers to setup sweepers to Oko move abusers and powerful legendaries. And they only need to win once to ruin your win streak. This has convinced many players that only the most powerful Pokemon can succeed here. But after spending hundreds of hours in the Emerald Battle Frontier, I can tell you that this is far from the truth. While I was watching a YouTuber named Sets, I became aware of Tangela's unique potential. Sets has a series called Replay of the Week, where players send in their most interesting replays from competitive matches, mostly Gen 3, and viewers vote on which one was the most entertaining. During one of these streams, a player called Smoking Rocks sent in a replay of Tickle Tangela taking on a cursed Snorlax. I felt inspired to attempt to do the same in Battle Tower, where cursed Snorlax is a common and dangerous threat, and is also part of the Salon Maiden's team, who is the boss of the Battle Tower. I didn't really have much experience with Tangela before this. It was just a silly little Pokemon with the funny shoes that shows up quite late into the game after I've already caught a grass type many hours ago. So let's have a look at Tangela. It has an impressive 435 base stat total, which ties it with Mischievous as the 168th highest total in Generation 3. Below powerhouses such as Seaking at 450, Seadra at 440, and Arbok at 438, and above Pokemon like Lairon at 430, Castform at 420, and Furret at 415. This might sound terrible, and it's definitely not great, but there are some bright sides to Tangela's stats. If we have a look at Tangela's stats rather than just the total, we can see that it specializes in two stats, 115 defense and 100 special attack. This takes up almost half of Tangela's base stat total, which is much better for us than a more balanced spread when the total is so low. Let's compare these stats to the competition. At 100 special attack, Tangela ties at 39th place for all Generation 3 Pokemon. Together with 19 other Pokemon, we also tie a bunch of other grass types in Venusaur, Vileplume, Victreebel and Roselia. There's also Celebi, but Celebi is not allowed to be used in the Battle Frontier. Sceptile and Sunflora are slightly stronger at 105, but Sceptile also has a stronger move in Leaf Blade. Cacturne sits at 115, and Executor is the strongest grass type at 125. Tangela's special attack is just as high as Starmie's, who is generally considered to be a strong Pokemon, but Grass isn't a great offensive type, especially with the only powerful Grass move being Solar Beam. Tangela's other special moves are Hidden Power, Confusion and Feed. Not exactly a Bolt Beam level of moveset, it's also lacking the speed that makes Pokemon like Starmie a threat. Tangela is among the stronger grass types when it comes to special attack, but doesn't really offer anything special that the others can't also do. So what about Tangela's defense? 115 is tied for 25th highest in Generation 3. That's already very good, but what's more important is that Tangela is the only grass type with a defense stat that's higher than 100. If you look at Grass's resistances, you might think that it's not great for a physical tank. It's weak to 3 physical types in Flying, Poison and Bug, while its only physical resistance is Ground. However, Bug barely exists in Generation 3 as an attacking type, while Flying isn't the strongest typing both in terms of moves and Pokemon. So there's still a decent chance you can beat them. Poison is a dangerous typing for any wall that isn't immune to being poisoned, but poison types themselves often aren't the strongest, and there are a lot of strong Earthquake and Psychic users who can help Tangela out. Meanwhile, we resist Ground, which is a weakness of many other high defense Pokemon. We're also neutral to Fighting, Rock and Normal, which are very common and dangerous physical types. But defense isn't the only defensive stat that matters. Without a decent HP stat to back it up, we still won't be able to take many hits. 65 base HP isn't exactly very high. It ties us at 161st place with Pokemon like Poliwhirl, Weepinbell and Yanma. That doesn't sound very good, but what if we can use this to our advantage? Thanks to our grass typing, we get access to moves that recover our HP. Giga Drain and Leech Seed are not dependent on our own HP stat and heal a larger percentage when your maximum HP is low. Combine this with Substitute, a move that always costs 25% of your maximum HP, and we get a Pokemon that is great at stalling out other Pokemon. A very interesting calculation that I found, and that really made me want to use Tangela, is that with the right EVs, Tangela can survive any crit or 2 hits from Snorlax. And with Leech Seed and Leftovers, we always heal at least as much HP as the substitute costs. This works against Snorlax with 18 or higher IVs and 0 HP EVs, which means that starting at battle 49, it's guaranteed to be enough healing. This means that once you hit a Leech Seed, you can infinitely stall Snorlax. You can still lose to 2 Quick Claw crits, but generally speaking, you should always win. Do you need to heal exactly as much HP as it costs to make a substitute to stall out your opponent? No. And this means that Tangela can also stall out a lot of other physical attackers that don't have as much HP as Snorlax. There also aren't a lot of Pokemon that have a stronger physical move than a neutral 120 stab move coming from a 110 base attack, which is Snorlax's Double Edge or Mega Kick. To further increase our stalling ability and increase our utility for the team, Tangela also learns the uncommon move Tickle, and it is the only Pokemon with Leech Seed who gets this move. Tickle lowers the opponent's attack and defense by 1 stage. This makes it the perfect counter against Curse. Sometimes physical walls can get overwhelmed by Pokemon that set up on them, especially if those Pokemon happen to land a crit. With Tickle we can counter this, and any physical attacker that doesn't have a boosting move will just get weaker and weaker. Tickle does struggle to stop Pokemon with Swords Dance. Sometimes you can still win, but often you will eventually get taken down. However, Tickle still has a big benefit, even if Tangela does go down, or switches out. By lowering your opponent's defense stat, a strong physical attacker can take them down in 1 hit. This, of course, also applies to other Pokemon that manage to take down Tangela. Often when Tangela takes out a Pokemon and the next Pokemon is a bad matchup for Tangela, you can go for a Tickle if you outspeed or still have a substitute up, and can still have a massive impact even if Tangela gets taken out or has to switch out immediately afterwards. Tickle is also nice to have as a 100% accurate option over Leech Seed. The 10% chance to miss on Leech Seed can lose you a battle, and going for Tickle is sometimes a safer play that still wins you the match. So let's have a look at the EV spread I came up with. We have Tangela with Leftovers. Our ability is always Chlorophyll, which we won't really be using here. We are at level 100 because at a higher level, Pokemon take slightly less damage. We have a Bold Nature to boost our defense. Our EVs are 108 in HP, 252 in defense, and 148 in speed. Our moveset is Leech Seed, Substitute, Giga Drain, and Tickle. With this, we fully focus on Tangela's strength. We accept that we're just going to die if we get hit by a special attack and fully invest in defense. Then we get our HP to a point where we fully heal back our substitute and can also survive a crit from Snorlax at neutral. We can also survive some of the most powerful unboosted physical attacks in the game. Only Adamant 252 attack EV's Heracross have around a 50% chance to kill this Tangela in a single hit with Mega Horn. Maximum Power Reversal from a Medicham also only has an 18% chance to one-shot this Tangela, which is great if it endures against one of your other Pokemon. Only some explosions can cleanly kill Tangela if they avoid getting tickled first. But if they decide to explode, you've at least taken down the Pokemon. Even then, some explosions aren't strong enough. Keep in mind that Explosion is a 250 base power move that secretly halves the opponent's defense in this generation. The rest of our EVs we throw into speed. This allows us to outspeed Blastoise and Feraligatr, as well as many other lower speed Pokemon. Why do we want to outspeed these Pokemon when we're just going to get one shot by Ice Beam and don't have enough damage to kill them with Giga Drain? Well, if they switch in on us, when we have a substitute up, we can go for Leech Seed and stall them out with substitute. If we don't have a substitute or miss Leech Seed, we can use Tickle or Giga Drain to weaken them and allow one of our other Pokemon to finish the job. Now that we know how Tangela works, let's have a look at the team I used this Tangela on. I was really happy with the Tangela that I made, but I also knew that it would be difficult to find the right team for it. Its strengths are strong, but also very specific, and its weaknesses are big. I figured a Pokemon that invites earthquakes would be a good partner, maybe a Raikou or a Lantern, but I couldn't come up with a team that I was satisfied with. I still wanted to test out this Tangela, so I decided to put it on a team that I usually use to rush through the early rounds of the Battle Tower. This team is normally Tauros, Latios and Skarmory, but for this I replaced Skarmory with Tangela. They are both physical walls, and I had lost a few times to Skarmory getting crit by a curse boosted Snorlax. So at least that's something Tangela should be good at beating. There are also scenarios where Skarmory would be better to have, like against a Pokemon with Oko moves, since its sturdy makes it immune to those, but we'll just have to deal with that. Let me quickly explain how Tauros and Latios work on this team. It's extremely straightforward. They're among the fastest and strongest attackers in Generation 3. They both have 110 base speed, which allows them to outspeed most Pokemon. They're also both very powerful in their own ways. Tauros' base 100 attack might not sound that impressive compared to other Pokemon like Metagross and Salamence who have 135, but with Stab, Double Edge and a Choice Band we can one-shot a lot of Pokemon. And many of the ones who we don't one-shot we can outspeed and kill in 2 hits. Tauros also has just enough bulk to live almost any neutral hit, and as a normal type our only weakness is fighting. Intimidate is also an amazing ability that will weaken most physical attackers, which can be very helpful for Tangela. Latios is here to take on the fighting types that Tauros can't deal with, but it can do much more than that. With its excellent coverage, it hits a lot of Pokemon very hard. While it has a little bit less immediate kill pressure, sometimes compared to Tauros' Choice Band boosted damage, this can often be fixed with a Calm Mind boost. Both of these Pokemon can often take out more than one Pokemon by themselves, sometimes all 3 of our opponent's Pokemon. Now you might think that Tangela is just going to get carried by 2 strong Pokemon and not really contribute. For the first couple of rounds this is true, as the weak early round Pokemon often get destroyed by Tauros. But as more powerful Pokemon start appearing, Tangela's role becomes a lot more important. While Tauros and Latios are very good at breaking through most Pokemon, there are still others that are too bulky for them to easily get through. Tangela has a good matchup into many of these. As I began using this team, I also discovered how amazing the combination of Tickle combined with a powerful physical partner is. So let's have a look at the other Pokemon. Tauros has a Choice Band, the ability is always Intimidate. We started out with an Adamant nature because in the early rounds this is much stronger, but I believe that Jolly is better at the max difficulty rounds. 4 HP EVs, 252 attack EVs and 252 speed. For the Adamant Tauros and for Jolly we have 36 HP, 252 attack and 220 speed. We have Return, Earthquake, Hidden Power Ghost and Double Edge. Then the Latios has a Lumberry, ability is Levitate, Modest Nature, 4 HP EVs, 252 special attack EVs and 252 speed. With Psychic, Thunderbolt, Ice Beam and Calm Mind. Timid Nature could also be really good. Originally we had Skarmory with Leftovers, Sturdy, Impish Nature, 252 HP, 252 special defense and 4 speed EVs. With the moveset of Toxic, Airlace, Curse and Rest. Originally, I only recorded round 10, mostly because I hadn't figured out a team designed specifically for this Tangela, and I just wanted to show off Tangela beating Anabel Snorlax. I thought it would just be a quick video about a funny Pokemon, and while Tangela did get to show off how it can beat Snorlax, it didn't see as much action as it had during the random trainers of previous rounds. I wasn't really planning on playing with Tangela again until I built a new team around it, but during my next stream, people really wanted to see me get 100 wins with Tangela. I had my doubts about actually getting to 100, but I figured I might as well try. During this stream I got to show off Tangela's power a lot more, and the same was true for some other streams. I'll now go over clips that show off some of the strengths and weaknesses of Tangela, and how important it is for the team. Let's start off with the first battle I ever recorded with Tangela. This will be a bit of a mix of some strengths and weaknesses of Tangela. We start off with Tauros locking into Return and taking down the lead Claydol. Then Metagross comes out and we switch to Tangela on a lucky Meteor Mash miss. Tangela can 1v1 Metagross most of the time, even if we get hit there. Unfortunately, this time it's Bright Powder Ice Punch Metagross and we miss our first Leech Seed and almost die. We land the next Leech Seed and go down. Tauros comes back in and deals a lot of damage with Earthquake, while we dodge another Meteor Mash before Metagross dies to Leech Seed damage. Even if Metagross had hit, it would have been a roll to kill Tauros, thanks to the healing from Leech Seed. But more importantly, I didn't have to risk landing another attack against Bright Powder thanks to the Leech Seed damage. The second battle is against one of the legendary trainers. You might not expect it, but Tangela often puts in a lot of work against these types of trainers. Tauros takes down the lead Latias and is locked into Return when Registeel comes out. Even if we were able to Earthquake, I probably would have switched out because Registeel can have counter, and this one later reveals that it does indeed have counter. We switch in Tangela and land a Leech Seed. Now there's basically nothing Registeel can do to us. We set up substitutes and watch as Registeel slowly dies. Tickle doesn't affect Registeel, thanks to Clear Body, but even without any attack drops, Registeel can't break our substitute. Eventually it's forced to explode, which doesn't deal any damage to us thanks to our substitute. The next Pokemon is Articuno, which we can't do anything against, but Tangela did its job and got rid of a Pokemon that both Tauros and Latios can struggle to defeat. Let's go to a different round. In the first battle I ever streamed with this team, we got to see a rare Tangela sweep. In the 123 battles I recorded playing with this team, this only happened 7 times. So I was very fortunate that the 100 win streak stream started off with this. This time we're up against some of the most annoying Pokemon the Frontier has to offer. It begins with Double Team Baton Pass Umbreon. We switch into Tangela and set up a substitute to avoid potential Confuse Rays and Toxics from hitting us. We land a Leech Seed on our first attempt, and then we begin to tickle as Umbreon's HP starts to drop. This Umbreon has Feint Attack, which is unaffected by the attack drops and allows it to break the substitute. But we heal back more than enough HP to keep this up for as long as is needed. Umbreon quickly decides it has had enough and Baton passes to Misdreavus, who has my vote for the most annoying Pokemon in the Frontier. The attack and defense drops also get Baton Pass to Misdreavus, but that doesn't really matter here. What does matter is that it also Baton passes the Leech Seed to Misdreavus. This means we can just spam substitute until it dies. But it turns out that's not necessary, because this Misdreavus can't touch us. Pain Split, Confuse Ray and Thunder Wave all fail against substitute, and Shadow Ball isn't going to deal any damage to us. Eventually, Misdreavus goes down and Umbreon comes back in. We Leech Seed it again and it slowly goes down. The last Pokemon is Gengar. We usually can't 1v1 Gengar, but this is the annoying stall Gengar with Attract, Hypnosis, Dream Eater and Confuse Ray. Only Attract works against our substitute and we take it down with a combination of Leech Seed and Giga Drain damage. Rune Maniacs and Hikers are trainers that often require Tangela's help to beat. This one is no different. Against the Regirock lead we could start off with Earthquake, but just like with Registeel, we are afraid of counter and also just don't want to take unnecessary damage on Tauros. As we switch to Tangela, Regirock actually went for counter, which gives us a free switch. We Leech Seed it and set up a substitute. Regirock decides that it doesn't like this and explodes almost immediately. In comes Shuckle, another annoying Pokemon that can be difficult to deal with for both Tauros and Latios depending on how unlucky we get. We set up a substitute to protect against Toxic, now Shuckle can't touch us anymore. It starts spamming Double Team, but we hit Leech Seed first try and start tickling. Shuckle reveals that it has Rest, which means that we could beat this with Tangela, but it would take a very long time. After we land enough tickles, I decide to switch to Tauros while Shuckle is asleep and one-shot it with Earthquake. The last Pokemon is Metagross, but since we're already locked into Earthquake, Tauros easily finishes it off. Because I showed you Metagross taking out Tangela, allow me to let Tangela get its revenge. In this battle, Tauros takes out the lead Gardevoir and is then locked into Double Edge against the incoming Metagross. We switch in Tangela on a Brick Break, which doesn't do much damage. Even a Meteor Mash would have done less than half, and Metagross would have needed an attack raise to have a chance at beating Tangela. We Leech Seed the Metagross and after a few turns it decides to explode. The Dragonite that comes in last is an easy one-shot for Latios. Now let's get our revenge on an Ice Punch Metagross. We start off against leader Armaldo and switch in Tangela on a critical hit Brick Break, which only does about 40%. We hit it with a Leech Seed and set up a substitute before we take it down with a combination of Tickle and Giga Drain. Then Metagross comes out, while we still have our substitute up. We land the Leech Seed and it takes down our substitute with Ice Punch. Now it's over. Thanks to our speedy Vs, we always outspeed this Metagross, and it slowly goes down to Leech Seed while we keep setting up substitutes. The last Pokemon is Steelix, who also can break through Tangela. With a combination of Leech Seed and Giga Drain, it also goes down for another Tangela sweep. Time for one last Tangela sweep. This time we're up against a legendary trainer who leads off with Registeel. You know how it goes by now. We switch to Tangela, Leech Seed to Registeel, and slowly watch it go down. Unfortunately, we lose our substitute on the turn Registeel feints. Next is Tyranitar, a very dangerous Pokemon. The permanent Sandstorm it sets up cancels out the healing we get from leftovers. Unless your Pokemon is immune to sand, but many of the sand immune Pokemon are hit hard by Earthquake, which Tyranitar usually has. There are also some Tyranitars with special moves like Flamethrower and Ice Beam, which is why we go for Giga Drain on the first turn. Tyranitar reveals Curse, which means we're safe. But this Tyranitar could have Rest, so we set up a Leech Seed just in case this is going to take a while. Tyranitar doesn't go for Rest, because this probably is the set that doesn't have it, and we quickly take it down. The last Pokemon is Regirock, who also goes down to a combination of Leech Seed and Giga Drain. Just like that, Tangela took down 2 legendaries and a Tyranitar, and we're still full HP despite the damage we took from the Sandstorm. Potentially very powerful and dangerous trainer just got turned into a free win. In the next battle we get to see how Tangela can support the team with Tickle. We begin with Tauros getting hit by Sheer Cold after it deals some good damage to Walrein. Latios finishes off Walrein and in comes Gramble. We switch to Tangela, but this is Choice Band Gramble, and that's one of the few physical attackers that we can't safely switch into. Because we can tell from the damage that this Gramble is Choice Band and can't have Quick Claw, I should have gone for a substitute in the hopes of it missing. But I went for Tickle immediately and Tangela goes down. Latios comes back in and sets up a Calm Mind. Gramble hits another Mega Kick, but thanks to Tickle we just barely survive. Gramble now gets one-shot by Psychic, and with the Calm Mind boost we also managed to one-shot the Glalie, who is the final Pokemon. One last clip before we get to Anabel. We start off against the lead Aerodactyl. Some of those have Fire Blast, so I decide to take it down with Tauros instead of switching to Tangela. The next Pokemon is Regirock, who we take down with Tangela, and end up with a substitute for the next Pokemon. The last Pokemon is Regice. Regice is a very dangerous Pokemon for the team. It can have Thunder Wave to cripple Tauros, with its ice moves it can 1v1 Latios, and Tangela gets completely destroyed by it. However, we still have a substitute and we land our Leech Seed. Now we just set up a new substitute every turn, and eventually Regice runs out of Ice Beams and starts spamming Thunder Wave into our substitute. This really shows off the power of substitute combined with healing, and I thought it was quite funny that Tangela beat Regice. There are many other battles I could show you, including quite a few against random Snorlaxes and other powerful normal types. But it's finally time to tickle Anabel's Snorlax, the reason this all started. The first two Pokemon are very simple. We lock into return and do as much damage as possible with Tauros. If Raikou doesn't attack us on turn 1, then Tauros can beat both it and Latios. If Latios knocks out Tauros, then we use our own Latios to take it down. In both cases, Snorlax comes out last, and we switch to Tangela. Curse only has 10 PP, while our Tickle has 32. The safest play would be to Tickle until Snorlax stops using Curse. But it needs +3 attack to have a chance at killing Tangela, so going for a Leech Seed early isn't that risky. Especially with Tauros still alive to intimidate in a worst case scenario. And it will speed things up a bit. With the Leech Seed in place we can set up a substitute and renew it whenever necessary, while Snorlax slowly loses HP. When it gets low it will rest, and after it burns its Chesto Berry, we will have plenty of time to get rid of those curse boosts while it sleeps. Tangela can 1v1 the Snorlax, but once its stats have been dropped, it's easier to just switch to Tauros or Latios while Snorlax is asleep and finish it off. And with that our goal has been achieved. Snorlax has been thoroughly tickled, and Tangela got a winning streak worth being proud of. We ended up with 126 wins in a row before losing to a devious double team Umbreon. Not bad for a Pokemon that according to Game Freak is so bad that it wasn't even good enough to be on the team of the Aroma ladies in the later rounds. And they have Sunflora and Tropius. I might try to get a better streak in the future, especially if I end up ever building a team around this Tangela rather than just throwing it onto a team that was only meant to quickly beat the first 7 rounds and not to get a long consistent streak. I can safely say that this Tangela is the best Pokemon that I've made for the Frontier so far. Not because it's the strongest Pokemon, but because of how much it can achieve given the limited resources available to it. So let's have a look at how much Tangela actually did for the team. I decided to gather some stats from the rounds I recorded with this team. Of course there's more to it than just these numbers will tell us, but it still gives us a rough idea of how useful Tangela actually was, instead of just watching clips where Tangela gets to shine. During the 126 win streak starting from round 9, Tangela got 45 kills out of 210, with Tauros getting 79 and Latios picking up the most at 86. This makes sense because Tauros and Latios are both killing machines, while Tangela's job is just to take care of the bad matchups that the other two struggle with. During the other rounds, Tangela got 34 kills out of 154. Tauros got 55 and Latios got 65. For both, Tangela got around 22% of the kills, and if we add the meaningful assists, then Tangela got around 33% kill participation for both of them. Not bad for a Pokemon that is basically a counter pick into Rock, Steel and Normal types. Tangela's stats are a lot more dependent on which Pokemon our opponent brings. This also shows if we look at the individual rounds. 4 times Tangela had the highest amount of kills during a round, and 1 time everyone was tied at 7 kills and 1 death, with Tangela having 4 assists and the others both having 1. There was also 1 round where Tangela got 0 kills and only 2 assists, because we simply didn't run into the right Pokemon for Tangela to see much action. And that's the story of the Tickler, the Tangela that conquered the Emerald Battle Tower. I hope you enjoyed. It's the first time I've edited and scripted a video like this, There's definitely a lot that could be improved, even given my inexperience. But I have been sleeping quite poorly lately. Half the voice lines were recorded at 4 AM on 3 hours of sleep, which obviously isn't the best for the quality. But if I hadn't set a hard deadline for this video, it might have taken months before this came out. If you have any thoughts, I would love to hear them. If people like this, then I'll try to make more of these kinds of videos. But I currently don't know which Pokemon will be next, or when that video might come out. Hopefully within 1 or 2 months. If you're interested in watching live gameplay, then check out my other channel in the description. There will also be a playlist with all the Tangela battles that I recorded. If you think the replay of the week sounded interesting, then have a look at Seth's channel. I also have a link to the Tangela clip I used in the description. And thank you for watching.